Hello gang, D Tidwell here, Enduro Mountain Bike Training. EnduroMTBTraining.com for the webified action. Hey, it's video number 5 today, and today we're going to look at the rotator cuff. So let's mosey on over to my office where I've been teaching you, based off of the pictures on the wall, about the mobility stability model of the body as we continue our Restore Rebuild series. So remember, we started with the foot and the ankle, moved up and covered some of the knee. We definitely covered some of the hip. We went through the thorax last time. Now we are going to cover the rotator cuff, which is blue and red. Remember, blue represents stable. We need that whole area of the body to be stable so that the red, the joint, can be mobile. We need really good stability in the scapula and very good mobility in the rotator cuff or the glenohumeral joint. Okay? Now, I know as a mountain biker, we all have these little bumps right here. Mine's not bad. I've seen some ugly ones. It kind of looks like, hey, what's that thing sticking out of your shoulder? Your shoulder? Or your broken clavicle? Yes. So, you know, this AC joint gets whacked on by going over the bars, hitting trees as you're going by them on off-camber stuff, you name it. That creates instant instability and immobility in the joint. So I'm going to show you a couple things right now with our favorite self-therapy tools that you guys have probably, hopefully, mastered by now because we've been doing this for so long. Foam roller and the lat. I know I've done this. Hey, you're crooked. Stand up and look down a little bit for me. There we go. We got to hit the lat. I think I hit a little bit this last time, but basically you're just laying on top of it and you're rolling from about here to up here through the rib cage to hit that whole lateral aspect of the lat. And then don't forget, you can open up to hit a little more of the muscles that attach to the side of the scapula and come over and attach to the arm by opening up, kind of laying that shoulder open some. And then you can also hit more of the attachment stuff as the lat comes underneath the armpit and attaches out here, where you can find some yum-yums in here. Now don't forget, on this one where you're leaning forward a little bit and working through this stuff in the armpit, you can actually go side to side too and work through that ropey stuff. Don't forget to breathe through this as well. I know I'm talking, but when you do this, you should be breathing. Just kind of nice, good inhales and exhaling. Just try to sink, especially if you hold. You can inhale, you can hold for a few seconds, and then exhale, and just try to relax your body over a spot if you're doing any kind of pressure or isometric type of work on a particular trigger point or adhesion. Okay, so we know that one. Now, another one you can do if you go to the gym, or if you happen to have a good gym setup at your house, is to get a bar. Okay, with the bar, we can roll up on this thing and essentially do the same thing. I'm going to hold my arm and I'm just going to work through the same area on the bar. I like to let my arm kind of relax over it too, and just kind of, I get this upward stress or pressure coming up from my arm into the shoulder joint, which actually for me feels good. It may not for you, but for me. So again, remember what the definition of search and destroy means. That means look, experiment, try things out to determine where you have issues, okay? Because that's where typically you're going to find those gold nuggets hiding down in the body in certain areas that could be contributing to dysfunction somewhere. I found a couple good ones recently in my knee that I had no clue were there, and they really have helped unlock that injured knee of mine and my surgery stuff. Now, you guys know this one too, rotator cuff wise, but I'm going to show you again because a lot of people haven't seen this one. Lacrosse ball, still here. Now, I like to start out here and then bring it back onto my scapula and just work through that scapula. So remember, the scapula is this flat bone that has muscles attached to it, and they come over and attach to the arm. So the infraspinatus up high, the supraspinatus, the teres minor major group. These muscles can all be really irritated sitting over there on the scapula. So get those that are on the scapula, and then do go between the scapula and the spine. Okay, so don't go up onto the spine, remember, but get that meat, those traps and rhomboids in between the spine and the scapula. So this area here, okay, that makes sense, may not, but trust me. Go through all the way up as high as you can get, working through the levator scap muscle. The levator scap touches the top of, or attaches the top of the scapula and runs up right behind the back of your ear. So if you ever get tension headaches, things like that, you definitely want to do this one up in here, where you're trying to get that muscle that runs from the top of your scapula up to the back of your melon. In season, when we're riding a lot, these are really important to do, because most of the muscles of the head and the neck come down and attach on the T-spine. And we know that our helmets, DH helmets, etc., with our GoPros on it and all this other additional weight that we're putting on there, can be really stressful to the back of the neck muscle. So doing this thing can really help a ton. Not to mention, and I always mention it, but it's still really important, seated workplace positions. You know, forward head carriage makes a huge stress, creates a lot of stress through this whole back to your posterior neck musculature. So back to shoulder, I like to go up here and get this crease in between my scapula, kind of going into my armpit a little bit, but riding through here, there's just a bunch of junk in this right shoulder of mine that I spend a lot of time working on. Right now I haven't done this in a few days, so it's a little junky after a couple workouts. Okay, and then I'm off onto the lateral aspect of my arm to hit the deltoid attachments and all of the muscles that come around the front, and then also the ones that come from the front to the side, like pecs, pectineus, pec minor. It's not pectineus, excuse me, subclavius. And then all of these attachments out onto the side, and then even some of the bicep stuff, the pec attachments on the front part of the arm. My ball is right here, and you can get it off onto the chest into this pec minor stuff as well, which usually there's a lot of good stuff in the pec minor stuff, mostly because we get here from riding and we sit here all day at a desk. That shortens that pec minor, draws the shoulder anteriorly, or protraction, if we call it that, because protraction is from neutral coming this way, retraction is this way where we should be as far as good posture goes. Okay, you can also get this ball, if my arm's up to the wall and relaxing, I can get it right in this area. This is not really ever fun, especially if I ever get my fingers on any of my clients in here. There's a lot of junk that hides in there. And if you see my fingers, what my fingers are doing is they're kind of helping by walking up and down the wall as I do this, just to take a little stress off of the arm. But you gotta dig. Trust me, if you do this one, there's some good stuff there. Girls, might be a little harder for you there with breast tissue and all, but regardless, you need to do this rotator cuff stuff a lot, especially if there's an injury history of your rotator cuff. Again, like I talked about earlier with AC stuff, excuse me, it's all really important to keep all these muscles happy and trigger point free as much as possible. Because remember, not very many people know this, and that is that the entire shoulder girdle and the arm is only attached to the skeletal system by our collarbones. Okay, so think about that dysfunction. If you've broken your collarbone or you've dislocated your collarbone, think about how much instability that brings into the shoulder and the arm. If the only way that the shoulder and the arm are actually attached to the body is by muscles and one tiny joint, two joints via the clavicle, that's a big deal, right? So you have a lot of control and power with the self-therapy stuff to really bring back the good function of your rotator cuff from a stability and mobility standpoint. Okay, so get after those. Now, next video, hey, let's get you out of the corner where it's nice and sunny and I don't look so dark. Whoo, but I look really white because it's the middle of winter. Wouldn't that be funny if I just walked right back into the mirror? At least I'd walk back into myself. Next videos are going to be based off of mobility, or excuse me, they're going to be stability exercises. Okay, cool. So we're going to get moving We've loosened everything up here in those mobile segments of the body, the ankle, the hip, the thorax, a little bit of the base of the neck, and the rotator cuff, okay? And now we'll provide some stability in those areas with a couple of key exercises that I like during this rebuild restore that I will share with you next video, okay? So there's your homework. Get after it, and I will see you next video. Questions, info@enduromtbtraining.com, and check out our new website, enduromtbtraining.com. Cool? All right, you guys have a good couple of days. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.